I must thank Resonance Energy for organizing this wonderful conference, so relevant in today's time on that. And my special thanks to Negisa for inviting me and being part of this discussion here. We are really happy to have Mr. Das here as the PNGRB, which is a main organ, government body which really regulates, rather promotes city gas distribution. And we have people from Mr. Raman, Mr. Subhadas, also part of that, and a very unique platform of exchange. We have been talking for a long time actually in the gas business there, but we really see things happening now. So thank you very much for inviting. But when it comes to gas business and gas availability, we should look at little macro level. We are a country which imports almost about 89% of crude oil and more than 50% of gas from different sources in the world. And if we have to increase our gas, because gas is supposed to be cleaner than oil, and in fact, if you replace all the oil with gas, you actually save tremendous amount of emissions and also cost, because in terms of equivalence of the energy quantity, each ton, if you replace, would perhaps be more than $1 saving on that. So that's the on the other part, but then it's the ease of use that the mankind actually looks for that. So I think what we look at that we as a country cannot be working in isolation. If we need energy, we have to be integrated with the global market. And one is of course oil, but today if you see gas, then we also have to import gas. Unfortunately, we have very friendly neighbors, so we don't have international gas pipelines there. That could be one of the better ways of bringing gas to our country. So the only practical way is to really get it in the form of LNG, the liquefied form, where the natural gas is cooled to minus 162 degrees and 600 times, and it's easier to transport it, and that comes through the sea route on that. So what I'm going to do is some slides on that. We should be conscious of what is happening internationally. We are not isolated. We are part of that and we get impacted, and we have seen this. So can I use this here? Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly run through that. It will not take much time. If the time given to us is about 12 minutes or so, so we'll just run through that. So these are the points. How does India gas scenario looks like internationally? What is all happening? We had this disruption. What it means, you should know what kind of disruption it has left over the several countries, particularly the big economies and poor countries. That, and some of the issues that I have listed down, many of those issues we have dealt with in our report, where PNGRB had constituted a committee to look into the CGD part and how do you increase the gas from the present level to 15% contribution in the country. So there is a report which is right on the website of the PNGRB. I was part of that committee there. So you can look at that. Many of those issues are dealt with, and also not only dealt with, but action plan is also given there. And I'm happy that many of them PNGRB and government are actually taking up very actively on that. So that's very nice on that. So just quickly, if you see, world average on a primary energy mix for gas is about 24-25%. In India, we are about just about 6.5%, very low. So it makes sense to come to this thing. The only state in India is Gujarat, which is about 24% in primary energy mix. They have done it. So if you see the below this thing, we have been importing, and the imports have been going up. And that's the way I think India, with the kind of stagnant domestic production, some of the fields are very old fields which are depleting, production is naturally declining. So the new finds are able to make up that much. plus some additional things. So we see that in long term, foreseeable future, as I would say, there would be some increase in the domestic gas production, but not that kind of thing which would make a dramatic impact on the country's gas availability. So we'll have to be more and more dependent on LNG as an imported gas, and we should be all conscious. So all those industries which are actually gas-based should be conscious of that. When you say gas, that means you are importing gas. What is the prices? What are the challenges to bring it there and make it available to a customer? The value chain, the costs, all those things you should know at that. So this is the demand which has been given India demand sector. This is a study done by EIA. There is a demand growth there, definitely. There are. Unfortunately, the power sector is one which we haven't done much because of the pricing constraints on that. But we are surprisingly two weaker economies on our side, Bangladesh and Pakistan. 75% of their power comes from gas-based power on that. And that's one thing which I think we don't know how, but we should really see that power sector is a great growth driver, and we could perhaps use that. So the production is less, and we import almost half of that. EIA has given some growth to this thing. We have also seen a study by PNGRB, which is very interesting. They have done two scenarios on that, and they say that from present 110 million standard cubic meters being added, and if you see, and from there to up to by 2040, that's the report vision. That report we have submitted, and I recommend that all of you please go through that. We'll give you some insight. The main driver for gas growth is CGD, and therefore compliments to Mr. Negi to really having this as a focus, that this is one of the sectors. Of course, there are other sectors also like refinery and all, but this is a most developing growth-oriented sector. There are, of course, some differences within the growth pattern given by PNGRB as also by some of the international companies there. PNGRB, to mind, has been much more proactive thinking, forward-looking, that the growth is much more likely than what other international companies are looking at that. So if you see, by 2040, they say that good to go and good to best, they are the two scenarios. Good to go by 2040 would be 490 odd million standard cubic meters there, but good to best, the best kind of scenario could be around 630. Even if we say good to go, this is a wonderful growth, and to meet that growth you would need much more gas there, and from where that gas would come, that's the challenge that you should really be looking at that. So contribution wise, if you see, we had the best contribution somewhere around 210-11 on that, but then the contribution of gas is only coming down. So the government's now initiative is to bring it back to, and the target that they have set is about 15% by 2030. Of course, we are saying that by 2040 perhaps we should be able to meet it, because this sector would require tremendous amount of investments to be able to do that. And not only that investments, participation of the industry is, to my mind, is the most important thing. So again, the gas driver internationally also, if you see, city gas distribution sector has been recognized by international companies also, consultants also, as the main driving sector. So that's a very important thing on that. If you see in terms of growth, we have seen how the CGD growth has been there in terms of numbers, in terms of CNG, PNG growth, tremendous amount of this thing, and very aggressively, and the compliments to PNGRB, their leadership and their team, led by Mr. Dath, for example, done tremendously well. I'd say that they've really given a blueprint how gas can really be the most preferred fuel in the country. If you see the global energy system, this is a recent last month's study by Dutch company Shell. which has brought out that if you see, compare last year to this year and see what all kind of contributions are coming from different fuels, then it is the gas which is really making a difference. And within the gas business, very strongly and very clearly, it is the LNG business which is actually growing. They are the globally. So I think that's what we should keep in mind, and it only gives us some confidence that in coming years gas would play important role. Although there is a tremendous pressure in terms of emissions control and switching from polluting fossil fuels to cleaner energy sources here, and several scenarios have been developed by consultants, international companies and whatnot. But one thing is very clear, that coal is coming down very drastically, oil is getting reduced to almost 50% of percentage point of view by 2050, gas marginally decreases only. So gas is going to continue for a long time, and what people call as a bridge fuel, I have a different opinion. Gas is going to play much stronger role even beyond 2050 as well. So that's a positive thing, and I think when we propose to focus on gas and grow on that, I think that's the right thing to do right now. So this shows that within the gas business, share of LNG, if you see the gray part, from 2020 13% to 18% to by 2050 it is about 23%. Although I must make a point that many of these projections get really wrong if the incidents like present energy disruptions happens there, and that's very important. We should keep in mind that we should, and therefore all these companies or organizations keep on making reviews of their projections every year now. So that's a very important thing. And if you see, when it comes to LNG, we have a comfort that there is a huge amount of capacity that is coming up on that, and in terms of what is in under construction or in pipeline would ensure that adequate amount of LNG would be available globally. So that's one thing. The challenge is how as a country we can get the best options in terms of pricing, supply and all. That's a challenge that we should see, because our country is actually so this is again a outlook study done only last month, June 26 actually, that it is the China and India which are actually driving. Not only China and India, I would say Asia is the driving engine for LNG actually. Also crude oil also. So growth is in Asia. So I think we should be conscious that we need more energy, we need more gas, and the challenge is how do we get this thing. Shell also has brought out that 2024 the projections came down by 30 million ton in terms of global LNG difference between the two scenarios that they developed, and it is equivalent to what actually annual country imports there. So we need to take some corrections on that. That's a very interesting study by Shell Outlook. Yeah, so this is the growth that 2024 was the lowest in terms of growth point of view, but then a tremendous amount of investments in LNG is happening in US, and what is happening in Russia is that while the pipeline supply to the Europe is almost nil, it has come down from 41% to almost about 4-5% right now. Just technical thing is flowing on that. So what happens to all this gas that was going to Europe? Russia has diverted most of it as much as possible to LNG trade. So more LNG is available from Russia, which makes good impact on in the pricing and availability on that. So that's what is happening. When it comes to us, if you see, we have now 7-8 terminals which are operating in India with adequate capacities, and few of them under under expansion and under constructions. Like we have 3 proposed under construction, 2 under sort of commissioning and doing. So we have adequate capacity of about, we will say, if everything comes to about 80 million ton, which is adequate to keep meeting the demand of the country. But all this is fine. So far the global energy trade is going normal. But we have had this huge socio-economic disruption, war. This is the biggest energy disruption world has faced in the last 100 years' time. And I just want to say that if you see some of those things in the socio-economic impact, IMF has come out that it would drop 2% of the global GDP, which is too much of that. 60 infrastructure sites have been damaged in this war. And these are all very complex structures, so it will take months to really repair it and put it back on that. The study has said that the global gas demand is expected to decline by 0.5% this year. Lower gas use in power and industrial sector are the main issues on that. This is the 3rd time in the last 7 years that has happened on that. So many other studies, interesting study has come up on that. And just look at what kind of thing has happened. The Strait of Hormuz, the tanker traffic is just stopped. Even now, it is actually trickling. It is far away from the normal traffic there. And look at the prices of the oil and this thing which has gone up. And as Mr. Nindita was showing that even now they are not stabilized prices here. Every small incident really triggers increase on this. So this directly impacts us. And from the Hormuz to India, we had about 20% of our LNG, I think more than that actually, stopped immediately. Whole Asia's LNG is about 20%. Whole Asia's oil is about 70%, which comes from through the Hormuz, this thing. So this is the kind of disruption we have had. 10% increase in the prices would mean 40 basis points increase in the global inflation, and we see some of the countries, largely developing economies, impacted by the inflation. In our own country also, there is a trigger. We have the highest inflation rate right now compared to last quarters. Let's come to some of the challenges. I just listed few challenges here. One is when it comes to LNG, because LNG is the focus. I mean, you will need LNG when you need 4 more gas for CGD, and the kind of rate of expansion is coming up. You will need more and more LNG there. So related to that, for example, we see that capacity utilization is very low. Barring the Dahej terminal, all of them, if you put together, would be just about 20-25%, which is low. So why it is so, we need to really see that we need to increase. So, and when we look at critically, inadequate pipeline network for evacuation gas, last mile connectivity, these are the things which we are looking at that, and there are very concrete, specific recommendations in our report on that, and there are a lot of actions being taken on that. At the same time, the LNG terminal operators have the opportunity to have this capacity utilization given to outside agencies. There is an arbitrage issue. We did it in Kochi in 2013-14. And we gave it to a trader, and they used it for more than a year to store their LNG and then sell it somewhere else after that. So you have a different business model in terms of storage business, as also loading and unloading will do. Grid connectivity is again an issue. I mean, that would help definitely increase in the gas transmission and bringing from the more affluent western sector connected to the southern sector and eastern sector. Connectivity between the port terminals and hinterland is again an issue there. We thought that this could be perhaps highlighted here. And of course, the last mile connectivity is an issue. Virtual pipeline connectivity, you see that when you take the gas on by road, for example, Inadequate loading facilities. I think not all terminals have that kind of flexibility of large number of LNG loading facilities that the LNG can move by truck. That, and we have no facility of LNG by ship. And I strongly recommend that there should be a small ship, barges could be very useful to take the LNG into the hinterland. And now we have the waterways more effective. This could be used. This is an opportunity for all the LNG traders and that. There are, of course, issues related to statutory approvals. And I think we have requested PNGRB and government to really look into it. I have a uniform CGD policy for all states, which would mean timeline-wise, certain charges and all to be standardized for all of them in similar way. Infrastructure exclusivity, I'm sure many of the CGD operators would be saying that on that. While we give the exclusivity for 25 years, marketing exclusivity is for 5 to 8 years. You should see this issue from a national perspective when the country wants that this should expand and should not be a problem. So what is this? I think rightly the PNGRB is looking at that, why it cannot be converted into a common carrier, and then see that it progresses quickly and other operators come in there. But at the same time, the infrastructure exclusivity is also compensated appropriately. Volume threshold disputes, these are the things which I'm sure the operational things you will be knowing that, but we strongly recommend that there is a need for an independent, transparent pipeline operator which operates real time, which has the complete data countrywide. So one grid, one operator who sees the transportation thing and sees that it is facilitated and it is independent, transparent way. And we have an online system where all the data, how much is gas flowing, what are the cash flows and other things are also on online, and anybody can really, all the operators would have access to see that. So that's one thing. When it comes to LNG storage, I think we strongly recommend the government to create a strategic storage there. There are opportunities with the present terminals as also maybe new terminals there, and there is a case to my mind for a VGF funding in terms of strategic storage for that. We need to develop a proper business model for that, but then this is very, very important that there's an opportunity for again for LNG terminals where we can have an online system that how much capacity is available, how much volumes are there, what is going to be there in next maybe a month's time, so that all the buyers, short-term buyers can really have that data and then make use of that. And that might be linked with the, to my mind, with IGX to really see and facilitate it on that. There is a lack of interest of the Indian companies in LNG shipping, as I said. We were the first one to start LNG business when we compared with China. And China today has almost about 24 terminals. They have the capability of building ships, FSRUs, and we have just remained as a normally buyers there. I think there is a need, an urgent need to have LNG ship capability within the country to not only make ships for our own use, but for others, and also barges which can cater to the coastal trade and hinterland trading on that. LNG sourcing, I'll just few points on that. India has been branded as a country where the prices is a major issue, as if that we cannot afford to that. The first cargo which came in 2003-04 was about $2 a BTU. That point in time, buyers were not ready. Oh, this is more than the domestic gas. How will you do that? But when the cargoes came, it was sold without any problem. The same industry could buy the highest priced cargo was $28 a million BTU. Even that was bought. So I think this is wrong to really see and brand India as a low price country. It is the affordability of the industry, and I think we need to really look at that and change it. And this can happen only when we permit some of the foreign traders and foreign companies to operate here. And that is why I keep on provoking Mr. Mendiretta to have the foreign companies facilitate that they are there. When they are looking at Indian market, many of the foreign companies are looking at Indian market because of the growth of potential there. But the hassles and the problems of really confusion, not clarity on the Indian market and the taxation and other process, perhaps is the thing. But I think this is, I'll just leak at that, not go into more details on this. Two more points I'd like to, this is the LNG business is also not independent. It is also part of the decarbonization process. So in the LNG business itself also, there is a great amount of initiative to have carbon neutral LNG. And there are various pathways that I've said that they have shared that to produce this thing. So far, I mean, this is just to show you that the coal thing is coming down, oil is coming down, it's the gas which is really doing that, and this is the way to really get some early advantages of emission control using more and more gas there. But if you see, almost about 18-20 cargoes of LNG neutral cargoes have been sold worldwide, and this is going to grow. So when you buy, be conscious of your carbon footprints of your organizations. In coming time, there would be carbon taxations as well of that. So how do you take advantage of that and being prepared that you are not adding your emissions? Look at that, your demands. Look at that, whether you can use carbon neutral LNG there, and have contracts that you actually gain on your carbon taxation issues on that. 2 points I'd like to make a mention here. One is that coal gasification is a process where if you see that India is a very good position. We have the 4th largest coal resources in the world, and we can use this coal in a cleaner way. So if you convert this coal through gasification to syngas, which is a low calorific value gas, about 1500 kilocalories and all, but is a right feedstock and rich feedstock for converting into synthetic natural gas as also hydrogen. And the cost of producing hydrogen is very competitive compared to the normal process of that. So we are suggesting that, and the Government of India has already awarded 7 projects on coal gasification with the VGF funding, and the next phase of $4 billion, biggest VGF funded gasification projects are right now on. The request for proposal is right now, draft is available on this thing. One of the project has been implemented and is coming on construction for synthetic natural gas. So if we can get some more gas through the gasification cleaner process, then it would add to availability and perhaps a competitive price on that. So on sourcing, it's very important. I mean, recently this Blue Ocean terminal, and when we see that when this disruption happened from Strait of Hormuz, what is it that India should do? Naturally, diversify your sources. Look at alternatives. Also look at alternative energy sources also. So when it comes alternatives, you need to really see competitiveness. So while we buy a lot of US LNG now, but the projects in Canada, and that too on the other side, or the west coast of Canada, could be perhaps much more competitive because your transit time is more than 15 days lesser. Also, when you compare the Henry Hub prices and the Canadian prices, historically the Canadian prices have been lower because they actually supply a lot of gas to US also. So we should look at some of the projects for long-term association with this diversified sources. Australia, although is traditionally been more expensive, but we could negotiate on that. We are really unfortunate that our Mozambique project is delayed by 6-7 years. That we hope that now it goes on steam and makes some equity gas available to this. So sourcing of LNG has become very important. Look for sources which are more competitive, and I'll be happy to discuss on this aspect if there is any questions on that. I'll stop here. Thank you very much for your listening.